Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact on the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
I took the test. I was so scared when I sat down to take the credit call test. I was like, I don't know if I can do this or not. There's lights flashing over here and there's people talking over here. And I still have to type it.
Yes.
Don't make a mistake. But apparently it went okay. Because here I am, 17 years later, also training coordinator for our division. So that's ever changing.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader Next Gen Core Services, and a big shout out to subscribers as always, as well as a shout out to the North Carolina 911 State Board for everything this week, for our partnership and all of it. And coming out here, I have been teaching, recording episodes, and my next guest today is Ginny, and she is a 911 professional with Henderson County Sheriff's Office out of North Carolina. How's it going?
Pretty well today, thanks.
All
How about for you?
It has been pretty good. I'm slightly losing my voice, but it's all worth it because I had the chance to be with all of you yesterday, and I had so much fun with you. And then, of course, being here, recording these episodes and everything, it has just been excellent. So it's just been exciting. It's just been really good. And the weather hasn't been too bad. When I left Fort Wayne, it was like 20 degrees or less. I don't know. It was pretty crazy, but it's been okay over here. It's been good. It's been in like the 40s. So I've been all about it. So yeah,
good.
So it's been good. So I want to learn more about you and see, because as we were talking about before we started recording, you've got 17 years in public safety. You're going on 18 in May. How did you get into public safety to begin with, though?
I think I was kind of brought up with the thought of, pitching in and helping your community.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was part of the rescue squad. So as a kid, I remember we had an old Plectron, if you remember, it's one of those tabletop big radio things.
Yes.
And when the tones would go off, it would just be so exciting to me to listen to the people on the radio and to try to figure out what it meant. I'd run, oh, daddy, it's got PI. And then, it would, I'm like, you got to go, So that was part of it. And my mom did first aid and CPR classes and that kind of stuff. But I think probably the one thing that hooked me was an old TV show called Emergency.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Emergency. Right. Yes.
I'm like, Johnny Gage, yes. So that was probably my first hook
Mhm.
because it wasn't just a fire truck.
Right.
As much, I ended up with a fireman. So um, that's what got me. I was like, you can make a difference in other ways.
Mhm.
And so through my life, I started out in education, and then I had lunch with my best friend who actually works upstairs. And she was like, we're hiring. I think you can do it. You should apply. So I did. And so I ended up here and I took the test. I was so scared when I sat down to take the critical test. I was like, I don't know if I can do this or not. There's lights flashing over here and there's people talking over here, and I still have to type it.
Yes.
Don't make a mistake. But apparently it went okay. Because here I am, 17 years later, also training coordinator for our division. So
Mhm.
that's ever changing. Just trying to keep up with, what we need to do for our people, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how I landed here.
So you have all of that background, the early stuff that you remember as a kid. You've got the show, you've got all of that. You've got a friend who ends up being in public safety, tells you that they're hiring, and you get in. Did you get to do like a sit along or anything like that? Or because you had been around it, like, did you ever get to go into a dispatch center? Or was it just hearing it from the other side and just that comparison of like the TV show and like your friend or whatever? Like, how was that?
For me, it was mostly on the other side.
Hmm.
When I walked in, I saw 6 screens. I'm like, holy cow. It was pretty, intimidating at the
Hmm.
time, and we had the big ball mouse, that you had to use for the radio.
Oh, yes.
So, it was those kind of things. And it surprised me how different it was. All the little bitty pieces that have to, and the gears that have to mesh just to make it happen.
Right.
It's like they know what they're doing on the truck. When we tell them where they're going and what they've got to deal with, they do it. They know what they're supposed to take. So it's our job to figure out, okay, what the hell is your story?
Right.
What do you need from me right now
Hmm.
to get it to them so that they can, go do their thing. So I like being a cog in the wheel.
Yes. So it was eye opening. It was surprising. Did it ever feel overwhelming or anything in
Oh,
the beginning?
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Oh, gosh. My trainers were wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, being on that squad, I remember I was so intimidated. I was scared to death of 10 codes. Because, how are you supposed to remember 100 and whatever number of them that we have?
Right.
But then that time clicked when, because they would sit around on night shift and say, okay, we're going to have a conversation. And that's what it would be. It's just 10 codes,
Hmm.
conversation, 10 codes thrown in. And I remember, wow, I got it. When the light bulb finally went on, I was like, I got you now. So, that was it. And still, some of the fire calls kind of, because law is my thing.
Hmm.
That's my confidence. I'm right there because it's a lot more black and white to me.
Hmm.
Whereas with the fire and EMS side, there's so many moving parts. So you have to be able to put those together.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I still get a little tingle when I get a structure fire and it's my turn. It's like, okay, I'm going to load this up. We got to get it right.
Oh man, I love this. And I before I ask you about some of those earlier calls, just your enthusiasm and just energy, I feel like that also um, helps when you've got new folks coming in and you're talking to them about what they're going to be doing, especially if they are nervous or whatever coming in. Like you've got that energy and enthusiasm and everything. That's inspiring for others to be like, okay, you know what, I'm in the right place. Like this is someone who has gone through it, who knows, and they're willing to talk to me and get me through it and share some of those experiences.
Mhm.
And I feel like for you, because you had good trainers and because that happened, that maybe that was also a reason why you moved up into training.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, I did graduate with the education degree. So
Mhm.
that was always a part of me.
Yeah.
But I needed something more. So I was very glad to have that opportunity.
Mhm.
And when new people come in, I'm kind of like a grandma or a great aunt because I'm one of the older folks in
Mhm.
our group. So it's like, oh, come on, honey, just sit down and listen. Just sit right here. It's going to be
I
fine.
love that.
It's like, and before they pick up the phone, take a deep breath, center yourself, and help this person. So that's kind of what I feel they need to be able to do
Right.
because you have to put yourself in your own reaction because you can't go do what when they
Yeah.
you answer the phone you can't do that. So
Right.
just to focus and put your own stuff in a little box, put it over here for now, you can come back to it later, but right now you are what I'm worried
That
about.
is
So
amazing.
that's that's it, and encourage them because when I came through with a little bit of don't eat your young,
Mhm.
like you said yesterday.
Right.
Um, one of the girls that had been there for a while took me aside one day and she said, "Don't bleed in the water."
Hmm.
And I took that to heart. I was like, really? So our culture has changed so much. I don't feel like I have to keep everything in.
Right.
I don't have to put my armor on when I come in. We're able to talk on our shift. We have counselors at the wellness center to talk to, and they're great. Just, one thing that was really supportive, I mean, our sheriff is amazing as far as mental health goes. He's very concerned about his people.
Mhm.
Um, I lost my partner of almost 15 years in November of 23. And I was his caregiver for 2 or 3 years before, the whole 9 yards. Um, and the sheriff was amazing. When he came to the visitation, I was like, "Hey, boss." And he was like, "Tonight I'm your friend." And that was amazing, and very supportive on anything that we need, no matter whether it's a bad call or something happening personally. They're always right there for you. And I could not praise my crew more. They have been really good for me, and I hope that I've helped them out a little bit too. And new people coming through, we try to take them under our wing and get them through
Yeah.
because you know they are here to take over for us when we leave. So that's almost a legacy for us.
For sure. Yeah. And right off the bat, my condolences.
Oh,
And
thank you.
it's awesome to hear the amount of support that you have, not just from your sheriff, but also, your director, the entire agency, the people that you work with,
Mhm.
but also that approach as well, that when you've got new folks coming in, that you want to embrace them right off the bat. Because also you want them to stay. Like you want them to
Absolutely.
stay. And you're right. You are molding that next generation of 911 that is coming in, like I mentioned yesterday as well, and I've been kind of mentioning throughout the day today, we want to leave 911 in a better place than where we found it. Sometimes people find it in a good place, right? But that's not always the case.
Right.
And you definitely want to leave it in a better place than when you found it. And I think that helps for generations and generations, and a lot of stuff that's going on. Like sometimes it's not for us in that moment, it is for those folks that are going to be coming in, because those folks might be the ones answering one of our calls later on. And that's what we end up going through. It's just how life is, right? So kind of going back a little bit to early on when you had first started and everything, do you remember any of those early calls that you took, or even like your first call or anything like that?
There have been so many in between.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah,
um,
exactly. There's always so many in between. And then trying to think about those early ones sometimes, it's like, oh man, I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. I guess probably the one from early that sticks in my mind a little bit was a partner took it. And the lady was having a miscarriage. And of course, her instinct was to go to the toilet. So she goes, she has her miscarriage and she's in tears and a mess. and my partner is on the phone with her, and we talked about it later because she was, and I could just imagine it because I had had a similar experience personally. Um, so when she was talking about taking, take the baby, fetus, whatever, out and, put it on a towel, and the lady was just my baby, and she was by herself. Her husband was at work. So that was, and to listen to that on playback, to listen to that call, I was blown away. I was like, wow, we did touch somebody. They won't remember it.
Mhm.
I mean, because that whole emotional process, they're not going to remember us necessarily, but we remember them in their good times and their bad times. We're going to remember.
Right.
So there's that little piece in your brain that you take with you. So that was pretty eye opening for me.
It's it it's interesting with this profession, the amount of there's different calls that we take, but some of those that have those types of connections, or those where maybe you've gone through an experience and it is similar to the one that someone is calling in, and you're able to connect with them a little bit more, a little bit deeper than anybody else. I kind of mentioned this yesterday, where it's not to say that our partners might not be able to handle the call. They'll probably do a great job, right? But they don't have that deeper experience, that similar one where you can just simply connect.
Mhm.
And also, when you think about what it is that we do in this profession, um, the amount of trust that people have in your voice.
Absolutely. That I think is an amazing superpower.
Right? Yes.
That we have the power of our voice. And
Mhm.
that's what they're holding on to. That is their thin gold line,
Exactly.
their connection. And they're, maybe having a horrible day and maybe kind of iffy. I've got a suspicious person in my neighborhood,
Mhm.
but you're it. You're their lifeline. So that's something I'm very proud of, to be able to be there for people.
It's it's that it's hard to describe that feeling sometimes, right? Like I can feel it from you right now. Just you talking about it, I can feel that feeling from you. But it's hard to explain it to others sometimes, where it's like, man, you're there for someone in their when they're living their nightmare. And when you have that moment, whether it is a good outcome or sometimes a lot of times a bad outcome, you at least know that they were not alone. You were there with them. And yeah, they
Yes.
stick with you, but you were able to be that person for them in that moment of need.
Yes.
And I don't know, sometimes I still sit back and reflect, and I'll think about some of those calls and I'll think, man, I hope those people are okay.
Yes.
Like I hope they're all right. And it's odd how something like, some of that stuff sticks with you as
Oh yeah,
well. Yeah.
definitely. Like Emily had said earlier, when we had the grandma incident,
Hmm.
I think about those people every year. About how are they, where are they, that kind of stuff. And some of the other people I've talked to, there was an older man that called. It was an incomplete 911. Luckily, it was a house phone, so we
Yeah.
had that
Thank
help.
thank the Lord for that, because
Um,
that's not not a big
no,
thing.
I called back, got no answer. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. So I
Mhm.
called back again, and he answered, and we talked. And it turns out that he had been in like a rehab facility, and his daughter had just brought him home, and she had left for the night. And he was just worried and afraid because he hadn't been by himself for a long time.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Are you sure you're okay?" Because in my mind, the kind of things that he was saying, I'm like, if I hang up with this man, he's going to kill himself.
Mhm.
I can't let that go. And he's like, "No, I'm okay. Really, no, I feel better. Thanks." I mean, just that sense that I got. So I thought about it for a minute after we hung up. I'm like, no, this is not right. So I put in a health and welfare check,
Yeah.
and the officers went out and talked to him, and he was okay. But I just needed to do that. I needed to follow my gut
Right.
because I couldn't walk away and just leave him there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that is another thing that excuse me, that I've told people as well, is that sometimes when you're taking these calls, you could hear just like the smallest of a sound that sounds odd,
Mhm.
and you start having this weird feeling, however you want to describe it, and you know that there's more going on, or maybe somebody needs a little bit more. And I completely get what you're saying, to send somebody out, because also then it kind of eats at you a little bit as well, because then you're sitting there even on a different call or in between calls and you're like, did I do the right thing? Should I send someone out? And then, there would be some times where I would send a message to an officer and be like, can you just call really quick? And I would mention it.
Mhm.
And they'd go, we'll just stop by there. Just throw in a welfare check really quick and we'll just stop by. And yeah, sometimes it would be the same thing. Other times it would be like a domestic that was going on and we just didn't know. Or, we would, while we had the person on, or if it was an open line, you start listening to everything that's going on in the
Absolutely.
environment. And you're like, we're looking at the in-house information. There's prior DV there.
Right.
You need to just go. And a lot of times I'm getting goosebumps now
Yeah.
just talking about it, but there's those moments, man, that happens. And sometimes it's hard to explain.
That's true.
I think that's just our connection with humanity in general,
Mhm.
that human connection that we have, where we can just feel it,
Mhm.
that there's something more.
That's hard to turn off.
Yes.
It's so hard to turn off. Like you were saying yesterday, you're sitting in a restaurant and you're having a conversation or whatever, but something tings over here. It's like, bink,
Hmm.
there's something going on over here. And it's like, no, it's none of your business. You're not at work.
Yes, exactly.
Focus.
Yes.
So, but that kind of sense, I
Yeah,
think,
that sixth sense,
yeah,
something.
and I don't think that ever goes away.
Hmm.
You're just constantly tuned in, which at first can be really annoying until you realize, yeah, okay, and
Right. You
you learn how
accept
to
it.
deal with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You learn how to deal with it. You accept it. You basically you let it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to because you're so sensitive to the world, and that was with the listing that we did yesterday. That was something that I realized,
Hmm.
that we are just so open, and I think the job really builds empathy,
Hmm.
so that when you hear that, you're like, yeah, I got you. I feel that. And we have that with our callers too. I mean, maybe not everyone, because it's like there's a booger in my burger or whatever.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
like, okay, hold for the city quick.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
So, yeah, but I think that kind of tunes us in a little bit, and I think that's something that's telecommunicators have that's very special, is that empathy, that human side that you have to do this job. And I've seen people come in that have done great on all the book work, all the learn the CAD, learn the radio,
Hmm.
how do I make this phone call kind of deal. But then when it comes to the person to person connection, it's a real struggle. And I'm like, gosh, that's not something you can teach somebody.
Hmm. Right.
You can model it and say, okay, how could you say that differently? And sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't, but we try to build that.
Exactly.
So it's all a building and learning and really a loving process, especially with your trainee. Because, we said yesterday, oh, one of the greatest things I remember is all greens on my deal.
Yes.
God love her. And I remember that too, because I so wanted to please my trainer.
Yes.
And I so wanted to prove those wrong that said, oh, you can't do this. You'll never be able to do this job. Like, it's almost that hold my beer, watch this. Kind
Exactly.
of thing.
Yes. I'm about to show you
I'm going to
something.
get the T-shirt and take a picture. So you just wait.
Right. Yes. Oh man. It has been awesome to have you on here and learn about your story, how you got started, your perspective on so many different things. And it has been refreshing to just sit here and talk with you. And I could talk with you forever. But going into the wrap up of this, my last question for you is, you got your 17 years. You're going on 18 in May. But if you could go back in time to talk to yourself at the beginning of your dispatch career, what would you tell yourself?
Don't listen to all the shit you feed yourself, because you're all the time second guessing, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? Relax and breathe. Just go with it,
Mm-hmm.
because you know in your heart what's right and you know what you've been trained to do. So don't listen to the little voices in your head, that are telling you, the little devil on the side and little angel on the side.
Yes.
Listen to your heart. Go with your training and follow your gut. And just be honest with people. If you don't know, I don't know. Don't make up something, because they're going to call you on it.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly.
So just go with your gut and breathe.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. This has been amazing, and I've had so much fun with you, and just thank you for everything you do in our profession. So for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and it's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. The easiest way to find everything, though, is to simply go to links, and that's links with 2i's.co/WTT podcast. You'll find everything there. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital Leader Next Gen Core Services. You can see this on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live. And then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But imagine listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.